Ever walked into a room full of people and suddenly felt your throat tighten, your palms sweat, like all eyes are judging your every move? That moment when self-doubt drowns out your voice before you even speak. 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius faced the same crowded halls of power, writing in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." What if his ancient secret stoicism could rewrite those awkward moments for good? Today, we're unlocking 26 transformative practices straight from Stoic philosophy that don't just mask social anxiety but dismantle it at the root. These aren't quick fixes, they're battle-tested methods for building a presence so unshakable, you'll walk into any conversation like the room has been waiting for you. From mastering your internal dialogue to turning social friction into fuel, we're blending timeless wisdom with actionable steps, because real confidence isn't about pretending. It's about reclaiming the control you never actually lost. What if you could step into any social situation without that gnawing sense of dread? The Stoics had a name for this secret weapon: Premeditatio Malorum, or negative visualization. It's not about pessimism, it's about preparation. Seneca put it bluntly, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." Picture this: before a big job interview, instead of nervously rehearsing perfect answers, you take 5 minutes to imagine the worst-case scenarios, the awkward silence, the tough question you blank on, even rejection. But here's the twist: you don't stop at the fear, you ask yourself, and then what? You realize the world won't end. You'll regroup, learn, and try again. That's the Stoic shift, seeing adversity not as a threat but as a training ground. Try it now. Pick a social interaction that rattles you. Maybe it's speaking up in meetings or mingling at a party. Visualize it going wrong, then play out how you'd respond with calm clarity. Suddenly, the fear loses its fangs, because when you've already faced the worst in your mind, reality feels lighter and your presence grows steadier. Think about the last conversation where you left feeling drained. Maybe someone interrupted you or a joke fell flat. Now ask yourself, how much mental space did that take up afterward? Here's the hard truth Epictetus nailed 2 millennia ago: some things are within our power while others are not. Social confidence doesn't come from controlling every reaction or approval rating. It comes from ruthlessly sorting the controllables from the noise. Take awkward silences. You can't force others to fill them, but you can choose whether to tense up or lean into the pause with curiosity. Or criticism. You'll never mandate how people judge you, but your interpretation of their words. That's your sovereign territory. This is the dichotomy of control in action. The Stoics weren't suggesting apathy, they were engineers of focus. Imagine your mental energy as a budget. Every minute spent agonizing over someone's tone or sidelong glance is a withdrawal from what actually builds presence: your preparation, your mindset, your next move. Try this now. Grab a pen and draw 2 columns. Label one my domain, your tone, your listening, your boundaries. The other, not my circus. That's where others' moods, assumptions, and unsolicited opinions live. When you catch yourself stressing over the wrong column, hear Epictetus's reminder: if it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. Suddenly, socializing isn't a minefield. It's a series of deliberate choices with training wheels attached. Here's your next segment. Picture a castle built not of stone, but of quiet resolve. Walls so thick that no outside noise can shake what's held inside. Marcus Aurelius called this the inner citadel, and it's your secret armor against the chaos of social pressures. While others scramble for approval or wilt under criticism, you're anchored by something deeper. The Roman emperor wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That's not escapism, it's your tactical advantage. Think about the last time someone's backhanded compliment made your stomach drop, or a group's laughter left you wondering if you were the punchline. What if, in that moment, you could step back just mentally into that fortress, not to hide but to recalibrate? Try this mid-conversation. Take a single breath to feel your feet grounded. That tiny pause is your drawbridge lifting, giving you space to choose your response instead of reacting on autopilot. Your citadel isn't built in a day. Start small. After any social interaction today, ask, where did I let outside noise in? Where did I hold my ground? Maybe it was laughing at a joke that crossed a line, or the quieter win of not shrinking when someone talked over you. Marcus didn't wait for peaceful times to fortify his mind. He trained in the tumult. Your presence grows not by avoiding storms, but by remembering you're the shelter. Ever tripped over your words in front of others and wished the floor would swallow you whole? Here's the Stoic reframe. That cringe-worthy moment isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. Nietzsche called it Amor Fati, loving your fate, but the Stoics were living it centuries earlier. When Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, lost his entire fortune in a shipwreck, he didn't collapse in despair. He stood on the docks and declared, "Fortune commands me to be a philosopher." That twist of perspective transformed disaster into the birth of his legacy. Your social stumbles are no different. Epictetus put it plainly, don't seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. That awkward pause where you mispronounce someone's name, it's raw material for humility, the joke that landed like a lead balloon, a masterclass in reading the room. The Stoics didn't just tolerate life's hiccups, they mined them for wisdom. Try this today. Pick one past embarrassment that still makes you wince. Now, write down 3 ways it sharpened you. Maybe it thickened your skin, revealed a blind spot, or taught you to laugh at yourself. That's Amor Fati in action, not denying the sting, but seeing the gift wrapped in it. Because the unshakable presence you're building isn't forged in perfection. It's crafted in the mess, the recoveries, and the quiet victories of embracing what happens. Your heart pounds as someone cuts you off mid-sentence, cheeks burning with the urge to fire back. That split second before you react, that's where your real power lies. The Stoics called it the Discipline of Assent, and Epictetus drilled it into his students. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about intercepting them. Like a mental checkpoint where you ask, is this impression true? Is my reaction serving me? Take modern office politics. When a coworker dismisses your idea, the immediate sting might whisper they don't respect you, but pause. Press pause, that's your moment of assent. Maybe their tone had nothing to do with you. Maybe it's fuel to refine your pitch. Seneca put it best, between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. That space shrinks with every unchecked reaction but widens with practice. Here's your challenge. In your next conversation, insert a deliberate 3-second pause before responding. Not awkward silence, just enough to notice your breath, to separate the spark from the story you're telling yourself. Watch how it shifts debates, diffuses tension, even deepens connections. Because presence isn't measured by how fast you speak, but by how deliberately you listen to others and to the quiet wisdom cutting through the noise. There's a reason you instinctively tense up when someone snaps at you in line or shoots down your idea in a meeting. Your brain registers them as a threat. But Marcus Aurelius offered a radical alternative. Sympathia, the Stoic practice of recognizing every person as part of the same interconnected whole. He wrote in Meditations, what injures the hive injures the bee. That impatient coworker, they might be drowning in deadlines you don't see, the family member who always interrupts. Maybe their words are just clumsy attempts to connect. This isn't about excusing poor behavior. It's about disarming your own reactions by widening the lens. Consider how surgeons steady their hands not by focusing on a single nerve, but by remembering the entire body's rhythm. Social friction works the same way. When a colleague dismisses your suggestion, instead of spiraling into "they don't value me," ask, "What's weighing on them that I might not know?" You don't need to solve their problems. Just acknowledging their humanity shifts the dynamic. Here's your challenge today. Pick one interaction where someone's behavior usually frustrates you. Before responding, pause and silently list 3 possible struggles they might carry: stress, insecurity, even lack of sleep. Watch how it softens your tone, or at least your inner tension, because presence isn't just standing tall. It's seeing others clearly enough that their chaos doesn't knock you off balance. Here's a paradox. The fastest way to feel at ease in social situations is to deliberately seek out discomfort. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who trained Epictetus, put it bluntly: hardship is the best preparation for life. He didn't mean suffering for its own sake. He meant voluntary discomfort sharpens your resilience like a whetstone on steel. Think of it this way: if you only ever lift light weights, your muscles never grow. The same goes for your social confidence. Avoiding awkwardness keeps you fragile. Leaning into it rewires your reflexes. Take cold showers. At first glance, they've got nothing to do with conversation skills until you realize both trigger the same primal resistance. That split second when icy water hits your skin, it's the same jolt as approaching a stranger, the same voice screaming abort mission. But when you stand firm under the cold, you're not just building tolerance to discomfort, you're proving to yourself that the fear is survivable. And that proof transfers. Start small this week. Initiate a conversation with someone you'd normally avoid: the barrister, the quiet coworker, the neighbor whose name you keep forgetting. Or try this: next time you're in a group, pause 2 seconds longer before speaking. Lean into the silence instead of rushing to fill it. The goal isn't to perform perfectly. It's to condition your mind the way an athlete trains their body, by embracing resistance as the price of growth. Because presence isn't the absence of fear, it's the quiet certainty that you've faced worse and stayed steady. Standing on a mountaintop, even bustling cities look like tiny specks, and suddenly, that awkward work dinner or botched presentation doesn't feel so catastrophic. This is the Stoic exercise Marcus Aurelius called the view from above, a mental zoom out so powerful it reshapes how we measure our struggles. In Meditations, he wrote, "Remember how small you are, and how small the world's drama is when seen from the stars." It's not about dismissing your feelings, it's about realizing most social fears are temporary blips in a vast timeline. Think of the last time you agonized over a social misstep. Maybe you sent a text that went unanswered or stumbled over a toast. Now picture watching that moment from space. No sound, no faces, just a pale blue dot where your worry briefly flickered. That's the cosmic perspective at work. Reputation, embarrassment, even rejection lose their grip when held against the backdrop of centuries. As Marcus reminded himself, glory is fleeting, yet people exhaust themselves chasing it as if it were eternal. Try this tonight. When anxiety creeps in, close your eyes and visualize your entire street from 100 feet up. Then 1,000. Keep pulling back until your concerns shrink to their true scale. Notice how your heartbeat slows when you remember, this moment isn't your whole story, it's just one brushstroke in a much larger painting. Because presence isn't about controlling every detail. It's about seeing the bigger canvas so clearly that small stumbles don't derail your stride. Consider this: the person you're too intimidated to speak honestly with today might attend your funeral someday regretting they never really knew you. That's the electric jolt of Memento Mori, the Stoic practice of remembering mortality not to incite dread but to ignite urgency. Seneca drilled it into his students. It's not that we have too little time, but that we waste so much of it. And nowhere do we squander it more than in social hesitation, filtering our words, softening our edges, all to avoid judgments that'll be irrelevant. 100 years, take the artist who never shares their work, terrified of critique, or the unspoken apology festering because the timing isn't right. The Stoics would call this a tragic miscalculation. When you internalize that this conversation could be your last, not in a morbid way, but in a clarifying one, suddenly pretenses crumble. Why? Because death strips away the illusions of what matters. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you say and do. Here's your challenge before your next difficult conversation. Whether confessing a truth or setting a boundary, pause and ask, if I died tomorrow, would I regret not saying this? Not as a dark fantasy, but as a litmus test for authenticity. Notice how it sharpens your voice, strips away the fluff. That's Memento Mori at work, not a threat, but the ultimate permission slip to speak while you still can. Imagine your notebook as a private courtroom where you're both the witness and the impartial judge of your own social interactions. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations for fame. He used his journal as a mirror to reflect, dissect, and refine his presence in the world. You have a mind, he asked himself, then why not use it? That same practice can transform your social confidence, one page at a time. Here's how it works. Every evening, carve out 5 minutes to relive a single conversation from your day. Not to dwell on regrets, but to analyze with Stoic precision. Start with 3 questions. What parts of this interaction were truly in my control? Maybe it was your tone when a colleague interrupted you, or the choice to engage rather than withdraw. Next, where did I confuse preferences for necessities? Perhaps you expected laughter at your joke, a preference, and mistook silence for failure. Finally, how could I apply virtue here tomorrow? Patience with a talkative friend. Courage to voice an unpopular opinion. Try this experiment for 7 nights. You'll start noticing patterns, how often you blame external factors versus owning your responses, or how quickly small embarrassments fade under scrutiny. As Seneca wrote to Lucilius, the unreflected life isn't worth living. Your journal is the whetstone that sharpens your social instincts, turning awkward moments into deliberate practice. There's a quiet trick the Stoics used to navigate tricky social moments, one that turns every interaction into a masterclass in wisdom. They'd pause and ask, how would the ideal wise person handle this? Not as abstract philosophy, but as a real-time mental blueprint. Imagine Seneca at a loud party where conversations feel shallow. Would he roll his eyes and leave, or find depth in asking one genuine question? Picture Epictetus faced with a heated debate. Would he match the anger or anchor the discussion with reason? This is the wise person visualization, and it's your shortcut to embodying presence when instincts falter. Start with conflict. When someone dismisses your idea, instead of reacting defensively, step back mentally. Channel that imagined sage, calm, curious, untangled from ego. How might they reframe the criticism? Maybe by asking what part of this could be improved, turning a clash into collaboration. Even in monotony, like a tedious work dinner, the exercise shifts everything. The wise person doesn't suffer boredom. They observe human nature like an anthropologist, finding fascination in quirks or silences. Epictetus gave his students this exact tool. When you're about to embark on any action, remind yourself what kind of action it is. If you're going out to eat, consider what eating entails. Apply that today. Before your next social challenge, pause and ask, what would my most grounded version do here? Not to mimic perfection, but to borrow its clarity until it becomes yours. Because confidence isn't about never stumbling, it's about knowing who you'd rather be when you do. Here's the quiet power move you're not using. describing social friction like a scientist observing an experiment. No drama, no blame, just raw facts. Marcus Aurelius called this stripping the bark, peeling away emotional layers until only the neutral core remains. His advice, everything is opinion, remove the judgments, and the obstacle itself disappears. That text message that sent you spiraling. Broken down clinically, it's just black pixels on a screen. The colleague's curt email, merely words typed in haste, not a verdict on your worth. Try this now. Recall a recent moment that stung. Maybe a friend cancelled plans last minute. Instead of "they blew me off," narrate it like a court reporter. "They sent a cancellation at 3:15 p.m. citing fatigue. I felt disappointment." No backstory, no mind reading. Just subject, verb, object. Suddenly, the emotional static fades, and you see the event for what it is, a thing that happened, not a prophecy. This isn't about suppressing feelings, it's about creating space between stimulus and reaction. As Epictetus noted, it's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them. Your turn. Pick one charged interaction from this week and dissect it into 3 bare facts. Watch how the weight lifts when you stop weaving stories around the facts, because presence isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to hold emotions without being held hostage by them. Your urge to fill every silence is secretly draining your presence, a truth Musonius Rufus captured when he said, "Speech is not showy, it's for conveying needed things." Think about it. How often do you jump into a pause with a half-formed thought just to avoid quiet? That split-second discomfort comes at a cost. It muffles your ability to listen deeply, and worse, it broadcasts uncertainty. The Stoics didn't fear silence, they wielded it. Marcus Aurelius wrote entire paragraphs about the power of restraint. To do only what's necessary, what reason demands, is already a monumental success. Here's the pivot. Silence isn't empty space, it's the canvas where real connection takes shape. Active listening isn't about nodding along while rehearsing your reply. It's about letting the other person's words land fully before you respond. Notice the difference. When you resist the itch to interrupt, 2 things happen. You actually hear nuances most miss, and paradoxically, people start leaning in when you finally speak. Because presence isn't measured in words per minute, it's felt in the weight of what you choose to say. Try this today. In your next conversation, consciously leave 10% more room for silence. Count to 3 after someone finishes speaking. Notice if they clarify or expand often. The richest insights emerge in those unprompted beats, and when it's your turn. Speak like every word is a resource you can't get back. Musonius taught that clarity, not chatter, is the mark of a disciplined mind. Your voice gains gravity not by filling airtime, but by proving you know when to let the quiet work for you. Imagine building your self-worth on sand. Every compliment feels amazing until the tide of criticism rolls in, and suddenly your entire foundation crumbles. That's the trap Epictetus warned about when he said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." He wasn't promoting mediocrity. He was exposing the fragility of relying on external validation. Think about it. When your confidence hinges on likes, applause, or even polite nods, you've handed your power to an audience that may not even show up tomorrow. Social media amplifies this, turning every post into a subconscious plea for approval. But here's the Stoic reframe. Flattery and criticism are 2 sides of the same shaky coin. Both distract you from the only metric that matters, your own alignment with integrity. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly in Meditations. It's ridiculous not to escape from your own vices, which is possible, while trying to escape the vices of others, which is impossible. Try this today. For every piece of praise you receive, notice the fleeting high, and then ask yourself, would I still do this? No one applauded. Maybe it's the workout you post online or the joke you craft for laughs. The goal isn't to reject kindness, but to spot where you've tied your worth to it. Because true presence isn't swayed by cheers or silence. It's built on something far sturdier, the quiet certainty that you're living by your own measure. Remember that coworker who shoots down your ideas with a single glance, or the networking event where you felt invisible in a sea of small talk. The Stoics saw these moments not as roadblocks, but as hidden gyms for your social muscles. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, that dismissive colleague isn't your enemy, they're your resistance trainer. Every eye roll, every awkward silence, every lukewarm reception is a chance to practice a superpower, alchemy, the art of turning leaden interactions into golden growth. Take rejection. Most people duck away after hearing no, but the Stoics would ask a different question. What's being offered here? Maybe that declined coffee invite teaches you to refine your approach. Perhaps the radio silence after your pitch reveals where your message needs more clarity. Even hostility can be a mirror. If someone's tone triggers defensiveness, that's your signal to strengthen emotional agility. Like a boxer studying their toughest opponent to find weaknesses in their own stance. Here's your challenge. Pick one recent social hurdle, maybe a conversation that left you rattled or an opportunity that slipped away. Now play detective. List 3 ways it sharpened you. Did it reveal a blind spot? Teach patience. Show you who truly listens. Write these down like a Stoic field report. Because presence isn't about avoiding friction. It's about learning to walk steady when the floor tilts and realizing you're stronger each time it does. There's a subtle shift in language that changes everything. 3 words that disarm pressure while fueling effort, fate permitting. Seneca scribbled this phrase in his letters like a secret weapon against frustration, calling it the reserve clause. Here's how it works. You pour your energy into a goal, acing a presentation, asking someone out, but quietly attach that mental asterisk. Give this everything, but the outcome isn't mine to command. It's not resignation, it's liberation. Picture a job negotiation. Without the reserve clause, your confidence hinges on getting a yes, sweaty palms, rehearsed lines, desperation seeping through. Now reframe it. I'll articulate my value clearly, but whether they see it, that's their terrain. Suddenly, you're negotiating from strength, not scarcity. Or dating. I'll be authentically myself. Chemistry's job is to meet me halfway. The Stoics weren't preaching apathy. They were exposing the illusion that effort and attachment must travel together. Try this today. Pick one upcoming challenge, a tough conversation, a creative risk, and script your version of the reserve clause. Write it down, I will, fate permitting. Notice how it loosens the grip of perfectionism. Because presence isn't about guaranteeing results. It's about standing firmly in your effort while leaving room for life's unpredictability to unfold. Here's a question that cuts through the noise of every like, comment, and sideways glance. Would you rather be good or simply appear good? The difference seems obvious until you tally how much energy we spend polishing our image versus strengthening our character. Epictetus put it mercilessly, if you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. That's the Stoic challenge, to care more about the weight of your integrity than the lightness of others' approval. Consider the modern obsession with personal branding, curating social media feeds to showcase only our highlight reels, laughing a little too loud at the boss's joke to seem likable, or nodding along to opinions we don't share just to avoid friction. None of this is inherently wrong until you realize it's eroding something vital, your ability to trust yourself. The Stoics called this the reputation trap, when the mirror you hold up to check how others see you becomes more real than your own reflection. Try this today. Audit one action you'll take purely for appearance. Maybe it's dressing a certain way for an event you dread, or withholding a truth to keep the peace. Now ask, if no one were watching, would I still do this? The gap between those answers is where your character quietly grows or quietly compromises. Because presence isn't about performing confidence, it's about embodying it even when the audience vanishes. Notice the difference between walking into a room distracted checking your phone, replaying an old argument in your head, and entering with your shoulders back, breath steady, like you own the space you're about to occupy. Marcus Aurelius knew this power of intentionality. Before dawn, while Rome still slept, he'd begin his day with a deliberate ritual, reviewing his principles, visualizing challenges ahead, aligning his posture to embody authority. Not as ego, but as preparation, he wrote, "The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. This is the forgotten art of thresholding, using simple, repeatable actions to shift from passive to purposeful." Your version doesn't need grandeur. Try the Stoic triangle breath before your next meeting. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6, a rhythm that cues your nervous system to dial down stress. Or stand tall for 20 seconds, hands relaxed at your sides, gaze level, not to fake confidence, but to remind your body who's in charge. Here's your challenge: craft a 30-second pre-conversation ritual. Maybe it's muttering a phrase like "I meet this moment as I am" while rolling your shoulders back twice, or pressing thumb and forefinger together, a physical anchor to interrupt autopilot. Test it for 3 days. The goal isn't perfection, it's presence, because how you cross the threshold isn't just preparation, it's the first act of the conversation itself. At that coworker's snide remark about your lunch, the group chat buzzing with drama that has nothing to do with you. Here's the Stoic secret: indifference isn't rudeness, it's a strategic filter for your focus. Marcus Aurelius put it memorably: you don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. He wasn't talking about ignoring genuine harm. He was drawing a line between what deserves your energy and what's just noise, like dogs barking in the distance. The art lies not in blocking out the world, but in refusing to let trivia rent space in your mind. Think about office politics. Someone's passive-aggressive email or whispered side conversation might feel urgent, but break it down. Does it change your ability to do meaningful work? Does it alter your values? Probably not. The Stoics called this prosouch attention, directed only to what's within your sphere of control. Imagine your mental bandwidth as prime real estate. Every minute spent dissecting "who said what about your outfit" is a plot of land you can't use to build something worthwhile. Try this today. Catch yourself reacting to something trivial, maybe a relative's backhanded compliment or a stranger's judgmental glance. Pause and ask, does this actually impact my goals or integrity? If not, visualize it as background noise, present but irrelevant. Like Marcus wrote, the best revenge is to not be like your enemy. Not because you're above them, but because your focus is too valuable to hijack. Presence isn't about engaging with every ripple, it's about knowing which waves are worth surfing. Picture this: someone just insulted you in front of a crowd, your pulse spikes, fists clench, and every instinct screams to fire back. But here's the Stoic twist: being wrong doesn't obligate you to react. Seneca, who wrote an entire book on anger, called rage brief insanity, a fire that burns the hand of the one who carries it. The real power move: treating conflict like a chessboard, where your opponent's move doesn't dictate yours. Take the Roman emperor who spat insults at Seneca during a Senate debate. Instead of retaliating, Seneca paused, then replied with such disarming courtesy that the room shifted sides. That's the art of modeling virtue, answering pettiness with poise so striking, it exposes the emptiness of the attack. Criticize a Stoic's idea, they'll dissect your point with logic, not ego. Mock their appearance, they might chuckle and say, "If that's the worst you found, I'm doing well." It's not about swallowing disrespect. It's about refusing to let someone else's behavior hijack your integrity. Try this now. Think of a cutting remark you've received or fear receiving. Script 3 responses that embody Seneca's mantra. The best revenge is to not imitate the wrongdoer. Maybe it's, "I'd love to hear why you feel that way," deflecting hostility into dialogue. Or a simple, "I'll consider that," robbing the insult of its sting. Rehearse them aloud, because when you've already mapped the high road, taking it in the heat of the moment becomes second nature, and your presence gains an unshakable gravity. Here's an uncomfortable truth. That knot in your stomach before speaking up isn't just fear, it's your ego whispering, "What if they think less of you?" Epictetus sliced through this illusion with one brutal reminder. You are a little soul carrying around a corpse. His point wasn't morbid, it was liberating. The more we inflate our importance, the heavier social interactions feel. But when you recognize how fleeting your moment on life's stage really is, that spotlight anxiety dims to a manageable glow. Think about the last time someone glanced at their phone while you spoke, or a joke you told landed in silence. The sting came not from the act itself, but from the story you attached. "They're bored by me, I'm not funny enough." That's ego dressing up survival instincts in modern clothing. The Stoic antidote: practice ego death, not self-erasure, but a conscious shrinking of personal drama to its true size. Try this today. Replay a moment where embarrassment flared. Now mentally zoom out like a documentary filmmaker capturing the scene. Notice how many other people were wrapped in their own worlds, how little your stumble registered in the grand scheme. Or borrow Epictetus's morning ritual. Stand under open sky and remind yourself you're a speck in cosmic time. Not to demean your worth, but to put social hiccups in perspective. When you stop fearing irrelevance, you gain the freedom to engage fully, not because you need to impress, but because you've got nothing left to prove. Presence isn't about being the most memorable person in the room. It's about being fully present without needing the room to remember you at all. Consider this: every person you brush past today carries a story that could fill libraries, untold struggles, quiet triumphs, private jokes you'll never hear. That barista who hands you coffee, the colleague who nods in the hallway, they're not just background characters in your story. They're living proof of what Marcus Aurelius called the interconnected web of humanity. He wrote in Meditations, "What brings joy to one brings joy to all, like the strings of a lyre vibrating together." Most of us treat social interactions like tax audits, obligations to endure, but the Stoics flipped this script centuries ago. Every conversation, even the awkward ones, is a chance to practice patience or kindness. Every stranger's glance is a reminder you're not alone in this world. Gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a lens that transforms routine encounters into tiny epiphanies. Here's your challenge today. Pick 3 ordinary interactions, maybe the bus driver who waits an extra second, the coworker who asks about your weekend, and mentally label them gifts. Then take it further. Thank someone unexpectedly, not for grand favors, but for simply existing in your orbit. Watch how it shifts your posture, your tone, even your breathing. Because presence isn't just about holding space, it's about recognizing the sacred in the mundane. Here's a psychological pivot that transforms tension into clarity, stepping outside yourself as if you're a documentary narrator watching your own life unfold. Seneca perfected this third-person technique, writing letters to himself with serene detachment. Observe Lucius Seneca as he handles this dispute. See how he pauses before reacting. That shift, from immersed actor to composed observer, dissolves the heat of the moment, giving you back the reins. Picture a job interview where your mind blanks on a question. Instead of spiraling into panic, you mentally zoom out. Watch how she takes a breath, buys time with a thoughtful nod, then reframes the question to showcase her strengths. Suddenly, it's not you floundering, it's a scenario you're analyzing, and that distance creates space for strategy. Studies even show this simple reframe lowers cortisol levels, as if your brain believes the stress belongs to someone else. Try this today, mid-conversation when you feel your pulse quicken, slip into narrator mode. Silently describe your actions in third person. He's listening intently, considering his response, or borrow Seneca's journaling trick. Later, replay the interaction on paper as if critiquing a character's performance. Notice how it dilutes emotion just enough to reveal the smartest next move. Because presence isn't about eliminating nerves, it's about giving them less floor space when it's your turn to speak. Your words are swords unsheathed carefully, because once spoken, they can't be stuffed back into your mouth. That's why Epictetus drilled this into his students. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. It wasn't about shaming chatter, it was about recognizing speech as the ultimate accountability tool. Every offhand remark, every reactive jab, every poorly timed joke, they all carve grooves in your relationships and reputation. But here's the lever most never pull, shortening the gap between impulse and speech. Not by talking less, but by making each word intentional. Think of the last text you regretted sending or the hasty comment that hung awkwardly in the air. What if, in that critical second before speaking, you'd inserted a mental checkpoint? The Stoics called this hupomone the discipline of pausing to ask, is this true? Is this necessary? Is this kind? 3 filters that transform words from accidents to choices. Picture a chef tasting every dish before it leaves the kitchen, or a blacksmith quenching red-hot metal to temper its strength. Your speech deserves the same deliberate craftsmanship. Here's your training drill. Replay 1 conversation from this week where words spilled out faster than wisdom. Maybe you vented to a friend or rushed to fill silence with half-baked thoughts. Now, rewrite the script with a 2-second pause inserted, just enough to let the knee-jerk reaction pass and the wiser response surface. Epictetus put it bluntly, first learn the meaning of what you say and then speak. Because presence isn't measured by how quickly you answer, but by how deeply your words land when they finally do. Picture this, the universe as a grand stage where every social role you play, parent, employee, friend, is just a temporary costume you'll one day hang up. Marcus Aurelius whispered this truth to himself every morning. Remember, you're an actor in a play. It's nature to act, its duration, as long as the director wills. That's the cosmic play metaphor in action. Not dismissing life as meaningless, but recognizing how lightly we can hold our parts when we know they're fleeting. Take status anxiety, that gut twist when someone at the party asks, "So, what do you do?" and your answer suddenly feels too small. Seen through the Stoic lens, it's like an actor agonizing over a single line in Act 2, forgetting the whole script spans centuries. Your job title, your social standing, even your reputation are just props in this scene. The play goes on with or without them. Here's your backstage pass to freedom. Today, pick 1 role that usually weighs heavy, maybe the perfect host or always in control professional. For just a few hours, play it like an improv actor would, committed but ready to hand the costume back without drama. Notice how it loosens the grip of expectations when you whisper to yourself, "This isn't my entire story, it's just today's scene." Because presence isn't about clinging to a role, it's about performing it fully while remembering you're more than any single part. Your nightly debrief is your secret weapon for social mastery, a quiet ritual Seneca called the Evening Examen, where he'd walk through his day like a general reviewing battlefield tactics. The day is not over until the lesson is learned, he wrote. But here's the twist, instead of dwelling on regrets, this practice transforms slip-ups into stepping stones. Picture your social interactions as a lab. Each conversation, each awkward pause, each moment of connection is raw data, awaiting to be analyzed, not judged. Start with just 5 minutes tonight. Ask 3 targeted questions. Where did I confuse control with influence? Maybe you stressed over someone's tone instead of focusing on your own calm reply. Next, when did I trade authenticity for approval? Perhaps you laughed at a joke that missed the mark or bit back a truth to keep the peace. Finally, what's one small win I can repeat tomorrow? A genuine compliment offered without overthinking. A boundary held without apology. These aren't guilt trips, they're GPS coordinates for your next move. The brilliance of this ritual, it doesn't demand perfection. Seneca didn't journal to flog himself for mistakes, but to spot patterns. Your worst social stumble this week, the flubbed introduction, the tense silence, is just the raw material for tomorrow's growth. Set a recurring reminder for 9 p.m. Stoic debrief, 5 minutes, 0 drama. Within a week, you'll notice something startling. The same clarity you bring to your evening starts showing up in real time, mid-conversation, because you've trained your mind to audit less and act wisely more. Presence isn't about flawless performances. It's about treating every interaction as a live rehearsal where the stakes shrink and the lessons compound. After 26 methods, hundreds of years of wisdom, and countless moments where Stoicism could have saved you from unnecessary turmoil, here's the beautiful simplicity at the core of it all. These techniques distill down to 3 anchors: control, perspective, and practice. First, control not over others' opinions or life's unpredictability, but over where you direct your attention. Every method, from journaling to premeditating adversity, is about reclaiming sovereignty in the one space no one else can touch, your judgment. Then, perspective, zooming out from the heat of the moment to see social friction as fleeting, or people's behaviors as reflections of their struggles, not yours. The view from above, the cosmic play, the stripping of judgments, all train you to swap the lens of panic for the lens of clarity. Finally, practice, because none of this works if you simply think about it. Presence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build through repetition, like muscle memory. Voluntary discomfort, deliberate pauses, third-person narration, they're drills for the real-world arena of human interaction. Marcus Aurelius whispered it best on the battlefield: you have power over your mind, not outside events. That's the through line. Not control over life's script, but mastery over how you read your lines. Your challenge: pick one method, just one, for 30 days. Not as an experiment, but as a contract with yourself. Maybe it's the evening examen, or the reserve clause, or simply asking, is this within my control, before reacting. Watch how subtly it rewires your presence when the stakes are high. And if this resonated, you're not alone. Hit subscribe. We're dissecting Stoic applications for modern life every week, not as gurus, but as fellow travelers figuring it out step by step. Because the goal was never perfection, it's progress, one conversation at a time.